So this is episode 11, and we are on the bottom of 76. So at this point in the steps, 5, 6, 7, and 8 are done. So now we're going to get into the process of the amends and step 9, and then we'll get into step 10, hopefully, after that. So bottom of 76. Probably there are still some misgivings, and above misgivings I have fear and doubt as a definition. Misgivings, fear and doubt. As we look over the list of business acquaintances and friends we have hurt, we may feel diffident about going to some of them on a spiritual basis. Diffident is lacking confidence. Lacking confidence. Basically, you don't want to do it.
That's my life.
Let us be reassured. To some people, we need not and probably should not emphasize the spiritual feature on our first approach. We might prejudice them. At the moment, we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. On the top of this page, I have written in huge letters, our real purpose. My closed-mouth friend got bracelets made just of this specific page. That's how important this page was to him, and I realize how important it is today. So I have it highlighted, I have it underlined. I said label the top of this page. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. And I wrote right next to people, I circled people, not just it doesn't say alcoholics, does it? It says people.
And in the original manuscript, step 12 does the same thing. To people it calls out, whereas today it says alcoholics.
It's easy to be a maximum service to people in the rooms. Outside of the rooms can be a lot more difficult. And I have the word circled fit. Very important word. We have to fit ourselves to be of maximum service. If I'm not spiritually fit, am I going to be of maximum service to others? If I'm not spiritually fit, I won't want to be of service to others. I don't even want to talk to others when I'm not spiritually fit. So again, it goes back to the bottom of page 14. What happens when I'm not spiritually fit? I'm on the road to drinking again. So that's another affirmation to go read the bottom of page 14. But just what is our purpose? Maximum service to God and people, period. Not just alcoholics, but everybody. It is seldom wise to approach an individual who still smarts from our injustice to him and announce that we have gone religious. In the prize ring, this would be called leading with the chin. Why lay ourselves open to being branded fanatics or religious bores? We may kill a future opportunity to carry a beneficial message. But our man is sure to be impressed with a sincere desire, highlight this, I have it highlighted and underlined, to set right the wrong. So we're not going in there as a religious fanatic. Look, I just became born again. I'm all good now, and I need to apologize for everything I've done to you. We don't go in like that. Set right the wrong. And I wrote next to that, how do I make it right? Is an amends me going up to somebody and bringing up what I said and I'm sorry? And I'm done?
No, you have to say, I'm sorry for doing that. No.
I mean, you can say you're sorry, but most importantly, if you've wronged somebody, an amends is setting it right. It's making it right. That's what a reparation is.
And usually that comes from them telling you how you can make it right for them.
Yep. Sometimes. Yep,
Some-
sometimes.
yeah.
He is going to be more interested, and I have this highlighted, in a demonstration of goodwill than our talk of spiritual discoveries. So I say sometimes because there's some people you've harmed for years, like close family members, and what you say during that moment that you're making the amends doesn't really mean much. The demonstration over time is going to mean a lot more.
We talk about
The
sorry.
action, that's right.
You can't just say I'm sorry and it's done.
Nope.
Larry had me put take heed there.
Mm-hmm. Demonstration is action. You can say you're sorry. You can say, what can I do to make it right? And a lot of the close people that I harmed, their response was, keep doing what you're doing. They may forgive me. They may not forgive me right then and there, but they're not going to believe until I show them a demonstration over time. And it takes time. A lot of these amends aren't going to be done. We're good. A lot of them are going to take time, especially with people that you harmed for years. So demonstration is action. I have this next paragraph bracketed, and I have it labeled setting it right. We don't use this as an excuse for shying away from the subject of God. When it will serve any good purpose, we are willing to announce our convictions with tact and common sense. I have this highlighted. The question of how to approach the man we hated will arise. And again, before you start attempting to do any of this, you should have talked to your closed-mouth friend in step 5 about him. You should have some sort of tact before you go in there. That's why you can't do this process alone. You don't want to do it alone. It may be that he has done us more harm. There are going to be those. It may be he has done us more harm than we have done him. And though we may have acquired a better attitude toward him, we are still not too keen about admitting our faults. It was the whole point of the 4th column. So we wrote the first 3 columns and how they harmed us, why I'm angry at them. And what was the 4th column all about? You're disregarding what they did to you, and you're putting down your part. So that's what the rest of this paragraph means, and I would highlight it. It goes right back to that, what we put in that 4th column. Nevertheless, with the person we dislike, we take the bit in our teeth. It is harder to go to an enemy than to a friend, absolutely. But we find it, here's the key, more beneficial to us.
That's what we were about this morning. I mentioned that about your amends can become resentments at the same time. Because you did something wrong, but you're pissed at that person, or vice versa. Or making the amends can make you feel resentment.
Ken, yeah, not every amends you're going to come out of there happy, joyous, and free.
When you started it,
But what do the directions say? We take the bit in our teeth. Have to. And when we do that, it's more beneficial to us. Then it says we go to him in a helpful and forgiving spirit. That's the key right there, forgiving. Confessing our former ill feeling and expressing our regret. So we have a forgiving spirit. Even though we know what they did to us, we're still going in there with a forgiving spirit, just bringing up our part, what we did. And here's the direction. Under no condition do we criticize such a person or argue. Simply, we tell him that we will never get over drinking until we have done our utmost to straighten out the past. So again, there may be enemies you go in there with. You're really going to want to bring up what they did. The authors are telling us not to do that. We are taking care of our side of the street. Now, a lot of the times, most of the time, when you take care of your street, they know what they did, and they're going to start bringing it up. Then you have a conversation about it. And a lot of times, you come out there forgiving them, and he's forgiving you, But sometimes that won't happen. Sometimes you're just giving your part, and they're like, okay. And they're not going to bring up anything. That's still okay.
Have you seen a fight happen during that amends?
Well, I haven't myself, but I'm not going to say it doesn't happen. There's some amends you don't want to go to alone. And we'll continue to read about that.
So like I said last week, I would share the amends, but I don't want to do it on. I don't want to share it on YouTube. YouTube, so.
Okay, then wait till I shut this off. And then, yep, we'll talk, yeah, because we won't go to the end of the hour, so, yeah, we want to hear that. Okay, we are there to sweep off our side of the street, and again, I have this whole paragraph labeled directions. Realizing that nothing worthwhile can be accomplished until we do so. Never trying to tell him what he should do. Here it is again, highlight it. His faults are not discussed. We stick to our own. Now again, before you go into the amends with an enemy, you have to have that mindset and pray about it before you go in. If our manner is calm, frank, and open, we will be gratified with the result. That is a promise. That is a promise. In 9 cases out of 10, the unexpected happens. Sometimes the man we are calling upon admits his own fault. So that's what I was talking about earlier. And most of the time, that's what happens. So feuds of years standing melt away in an hour. And again, he's going to have a great experience of a really powerful story of what he went through after this. Rarely do we fail to make satisfactory progress. Highlight that. That is another promise. As long as we keep doing those amends, we're going to keep moving forward. Our former enemies sometimes praise what we are doing and wish us well. Occasionally, they will offer assistance. And here we go. It should not matter, however, if someone does throw us out of his office. So again, that's 1930s writing. What else does that mean? It could end very badly. But it says right next to that, we have made our demonstration, done our part. I have that highlighted. It's water over the dam. So no matter how they react, you can check that person off the list. As long as you're not causing more harm after the events, because then you'll have to go back. See, that's why it's so important. You want to take care of what you went in there for. You don't want to cause any new harms. Most alcoholics owe money. We do not dodge our creditors. Telling them what we are trying to do, we make no bones about our drinking. They usually know it anyway, whether we think so or not. Nor are we afraid of disclosing our alcoholism on the theory it may cause financial harm. Approached in this way, the most ruthless creditor will sometimes surprise us. This is key. Highlight this. Arranging the best deal we can, we let these people know we are sorry. So you stop drinking and say you owe $30,000 on a credit card. You lost your job, you're almost homeless, you can barely make a monthly bill. How are you going to pay back a $30,000 loan? It's telling you not to hide from them. It's telling you just to pick up the phone and tell them the truth, what's happening in your life, and just ask them, what can I do? And most of the time, when they want their money, they're not going to just, a lot of times, especially with credit card companies, they'll make arrangements on how you can start making monthly payments. And even if they don't, they're telling you to arrange the best deal that you can. We don't hide from the people that we owe. What does hiding cause? Fear. Fear, anxiety. Yep, exactly. So that's a direction. Arranging the best deal we can, no matter who we owe, even if we can't pay them, we want to talk to them and see what we can do. Our drinking has made us slow to pay. We must lose our fear of creditors no matter how far we have to go. Highlight the rest of this. For we are liable to drink if we are afraid to face them.
Promise.
That is a promise. We got to face our fears no matter what. Perhaps we have committed a criminal offense, which might land us in jail if it were known to the authorities. We may be short in our accounts and unable to make good. We have already admitted this in confidence to another person, but we are sure we would be imprisoned or lose our job if it were known. Maybe it's only a petty offense such as padding the expense account. Most of us have done that sort of thing. So again, that's something you want to talk about in your 5th step. If you stole 25 grand and you know if you go to that person, they may throw you in jail, that's causing more harm to you and your family that you're trying to, get back with. There's some people that wouldn't care. They have to face that or they would drink. So it all depends on, and I don't tell people what they need to do. Like I said, I'll share my experience depending on what it is, but it's going to be your decision. You want to face it no matter what. You want to give it to God no matter what in step 6 and 7. But, you just can't, you got to be willing. If you can't face it right then and there, the book tells us that we still have to remain willing to face it. As long as you remain willing, it's okay. You can keep moving forward. So it depends on the situation. This next 2 paragraphs, I have it labeled alimony and divorce. The one I just read, I have it labeled owing money. So again, when you're working with a newcomer, you can, your book is labeled, you know where to go when they have these questions. Maybe we are divorced and have remarried but haven't kept up on the alimony to number 1. She is indignant about that. We looked at that word already, so that's anger. And has a warrant out for arrest. That's a common form of trouble too. Although these reparations take innumerable forms, so reparation, that's the act of making an amends for a wrong. Act of making an amends for a wrong. Act of making an amends for a wrong. There are some general principles which we find guiding. All right, this is the 3rd time they've said this, just in this chapter. I have it highlighted again. Reminding ourselves that we have decided to go to any lengths to find a spiritual experience, we ask that we be given strength and direction to do the right thing no matter what the personal consequences may be. I have all this highlighted. We may lose our position or reputation or face jail, but we are willing. That's the key. We are willing. We have to be. We must not shrink at anything. I stole so much alcohol from a particular place, I had no idea how much, because I did it over several years. I had to go to that person and I made him come up with a number. He could have just called the police and said, well, this is how much, you hit this number over several years, you're going to jail. We agreed on a number and I paid him back over a period of time. So just for me, I knew I had to face that consequence no matter what, because I knew what fear did to me. I drank over fear probably more than anything else, anxiety. So for me, I was willing to do anything. Again, it's up to you, and it's up to whatever you're looking, at facing. But, that was my experience with that one. I couldn't shrink. And over time, I paid it back. Usually, however, other people are involved. Therefore, we are not to be the hasty and foolish martyr who would needlessly sacrifice others to save himself from the alcoholic pit. A man we knew had remarried. Because of resentment and drinking, he had not paid alimony to his first wife. She was furious. She went to court and got an order for his arrest. He had commenced our way of life. So there's key. So he's working the steps. This is an example. Had secured a position and was getting his head above water. It would have been impressive heroics if he had walked up to the judge and said, "Here I am." We thought he ought to be willing to do that if necessary, but if he were in jail, he could provide nothing for either family. So again, that could cause harm to others. We suggested he write his first wife, admitting his faults and asking forgiveness. He did, and also sent a small amount of money. He told her what he would try to do in the future. He said he was perfectly willing to go to jail if she insisted. Of course, she did not, and the whole situation has long since been adjusted. Before taking drastic action which might implicate other people, we secure their consent. If we have obtained permission and have consulted with others, asked God to help, and the drastic step is indicated, we must not shrink. So highlight all that. Before you make an amends, it's saying consult with others. It's saying to ask God, and it's saying to not shrink. That's why a closed-mouthed trusted friend is so important, because the amends process is not going to stop. Unfortunately, just because we're sober doesn't mean we're going to stop harming others. We're going to do better, hopefully, in recovery from what we've learned, but we're going to have our slip-ups. We just are. This brings to mind a story about one of our friends. While drinking, he accepted a sum of money from a bitterly hated business rival, giving him no receipt for it. He subsequently denied having received the money and used the incident as a basis for discrediting the man. He thus used his own wrongdoing as a means of destroying the reputation of another. In fact, his rival was ruined. He felt that he had done wrong. He'd done a wrong that he could not possibly make right. If he had opened that old affair, he was afraid it would destroy the reputation of his partner, disgrace his family, and take away his means of livelihood. What right had he to involve those dependent upon him? How could he possibly make a public statement exonerating his rival? This next paragraph, I have it labeled Trust in God. After consulting with his wife and partner, he came to the conclusion that it was better to take those risks than to stand before his Creator guilty of such ruinous slander. I have this highlighted. He saw that he had to place the outcome in God's hands, or he would soon start drinking again, and all would be lost anyhow. Pretty powerful thing he did right there. He attended church for the first time in many years. After the sermon, he quietly got up and made an explanation. His action met widespread approval, and today he's one of the most trusted citizens of his town. This all happened years ago. So he just didn't tell his rival, he told the entire community. The chances are that we have domestic troubles. Perhaps we are mixed up with women in a fashion we wouldn't care to have advertised. So I have this labeled, this whole page I have it labeled affairs. We doubt if, in this respect, alcoholics are fundamentally much worse than other people, but drinking does complicate sex relations in the home. After a few years with an alcoholic, a wife gets worn out, resentful, and uncommunicative. How could she be anything else? The husband begins to feel lonely, sorry for himself. He commences to look around in the nightclubs or their equivalent for something besides liquor. That's what happens when we stop drinking and we're not in recovery. We got to fill that hole with something. It'll be sex, it'll be food, it'll be, whatever, resentment, fear. We got to fill it with something. Perhaps he is having a secret and exciting affair with a girl who understands, in quotes. In fairness, we must say that she may understand, but what are we going to do about a thing like that? A man so involved often feels very remorseful at times, especially if he is married to a loyal and courageous girl who has literally gone through hell for him. You stay around in AA long enough, you see it happen. You see people go out and cheat sober because they're not in recovery and that hole is not being filled with God, helping others, unselfishness, altruism, what it should be filled up with. So, affairs can happen, especially when you're new. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. If she knows in a general way that we have been wild, should we tell her in detail? So again, this is something if you've cheated on your spouse, your girlfriend when you were out there drinking or not drinking. You want to discuss that with your closed-mouth friend that you trust. And find out what harms it would cause if you did tell her. She will want to know who the woman is and where she is, and here's the direction for it. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve the other person. We never want to cause more harm to other people. So if we start bringing up other people that we cheated on with, that's going to cause harm to other people. We are sorry for what we have done, and God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. we have no right to go further. Though there are many justifiable exceptions, and though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have often found this the best course to take. So it depends on who you're working with, it depends on the situation, it depends on a lot of things. But you got to get it. That's something that you don't want to keep to yourself. You know, you want to at least tell a trusted friend in the program, and especially God. God knows anyway, but the whole key is you don't want to cause harm to other people besides the person you're making an amends to. If your amends is going to cause more harm with other people, you know, most likely you shouldn't make that amends with that particular person. Some would say, I got to do it regardless. If I cheated, I would have to face that regardless. That's just me. Because again, well, I'm just saying I can't live in fear. I know what secrets do to me. I know if I keep something inside of me, what it does. It's just going to build up. And I know my experience with drinking, that made for more drinking. So it's, you know, that's why they said there's no rule to take. You know, they're not going to tell you, you do this, you have to do this. Everybody's experience is going to be different. The closed mouth friend you're talking to is going to be different. You know, you may want to get advice from, you know, not just one person if it's serious. I've done that. So if it's something very serious, have a couple closed mouth friends that you can talk to just to get their experience. Our design for living, I have that highlighted. And that's what this book is. I wrote this book right above it. That's what this book is. It is a design for living. It's not a one-way street. It is as good for the wife as for the husband. So this book, these steps, can they help more than just alcoholics and addicts?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If we can forget, so can she. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy. And I have this page labeled jealousy. It's a serious deal. Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. It may be that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygones be bygones. Each might pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind. Keep it always in sight, and I have this highlighted. We are dealing with that most terrible human emotion, jealousy. And I have the definition. Demanding complete devotion, resentful suspicion of a rival. Demanding complete devotion is one, and resentful suspicion of a rival is two. Demanding complete devotion, resentful suspicion of a rival. So if they use the word resentful in the definition, you know it's not good for us. Resentment is the number what offender? Number one.
What was the second part? Resentful of what?
Resentful suspicion of a rival. And they're calling it a most terrible human emotion. Good generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than risk a face-to-face combat. If we have no such complication, there is plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is to keep sober. Certainly he must keep sober, but there will be no home if he doesn't. And highlight this, but he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated. Right next to that, I have psychosis creates neurosis. Psychosis, and we already looked that up. It's a part of our condition, that mind that's not in reality, can't differentiate the true from the false. is the person that I was around through all that drinking, are they still sane? That's what a neurosis is. Here's the definition of neurosis. And this is for people that they weren't drinking. They were just around you. It is a mental disorder characterized, this is a long one, by a combination of anxiety, compulsion, depression, and phobias, and I'll read it again, without apparent organic or structural injury or change. A mental disorder characterized by combinations of anxiety, fear, compulsion, depression, and phobias without apparent organic or structural injury or change. In other words, the organic part they're talking about, they don't have to be drinking to feel this stuff. They don't have to have an addiction or a drug to feel that stuff. My wife was getting physically sick and she wasn't drinking. Her whole day was consumed by my drinking, and it caused a mental disorder, a neurosis. Kids can get it, wives can get it, husbands can get it. Whoever you're around nonstop, you all of a sudden become their focus, a very negative focus every single day. So just because I stopped drinking, a lot of alcoholics think they stop. Everything should be good at home. It's not an overnight matter, and it's going to be a process. Everybody that you've hurt is going to be walking on eggshells around you, and that's going to take time.
Mental disorder characterized by anxiety, fear,
Compulsion, depression, and phobias without apparent organic or structural injury or change. It's a long one, I know.
I'm at depression.
Mental disorder characterized by combinations of anxiety, compulsion, depression, and phobias without apparent organic or structural injury or change. And it's funny because, not funny, but I used to get mad at my wife for, I'm not drinking. That should be enough. 17 years of lying and, saying I'm going to do it. This is how different it's going to be this time, over and over and over again. Is it supposed to be, back to normal in a couple weeks, couple months?
Yeah, now that she's already done.
Yeah. What do they want to? What do they have to see? Action. Daily action. So where am I at? Passing all understanding? Is that where I am? Passing all understanding is the patience mothers and wives have had with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead. And here it is. This is what sums up what I just described, what that neurosis is, or the household or the family after the alcoholic stops drinking. The alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead, affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. Here it is. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. He is like the farmer who came up out of his cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" Next sentence, highlight it, star it, underline it. Yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. And this is what my sponsor would always say when he did a workshop. What does that mean?
Exactly what it says.
It means, yes, there is a long period of reconstruction ahead. Flat out. It's not an overnight matter. It says we must take the lead. A remorseful mumbling, highlight this, of we are sorry won't fill the bill at all. So they really define what saying just I'm sorry means. Nothing. They call it a remorseful mumbling. They're sick of hearing I'm sorry, especially the ones that you've hurt.
That's not what I used to say.
Yep. Sorry becomes nothing to them. They need the demonstration. We ought to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it, being very careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. Another conversation about that.
My family has it like
And we see them.
It's my fault.
But we don't bring them up. And why do we usually see them? Because we go through them ourselves. We have them ourselves. I have this highlighted. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. That's a direction, and they're telling us to do it daily during our meditation with God. And I have written direction done daily. The spiritual life is not a theory. Here's italicized words. We have to live it. And thank God, what did we just read? We have a design for living. It shows us how to live. I used to think this book was just show me how to stop drinking. It does that, but it's so much more. It shows me how to live. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly. Incessantly means continuous without stopping. Continuous without stopping. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. I want everybody on the planet to come to Jesus. But me forcing it down someone's throat, especially alcoholics, is that going to work? No. It actually drives them away. But I'm still going to share it. They will change in time, and here's highlighting. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. Action speaks louder than words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. And now this next paragraph I have written to the side, people that it's hard to make an amends to them. In other words, you don't know where they are, and even if they've passed away, but there's still ways to deal with it. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. So you know this person was on your list, you don't know how to find them, you stay willing. That if the opportunity arises, then you'll make that amends. Before social media, it was hard for these guys to find people. It's not very hard to find people now. You may not want to find them, and you don't have to add them as a friend, but you can sure message them and tell them your part. I had to do that with a lot. Going back to
They
childhood.
find you and remind you, remember when you did this?"
Yep. But I took care of each and every one of them. Marked them off the list.
So you made amends to almost everybody on your paper?
90%.
How long was the paper?
It was pretty long. But, I mean, you'll read how Dr. Bob did. I mean, I took the tact. I had to get through this stuff. And I didn't pause. I went one right after the other. Because I knew and I believed what they were telling me in this book. If I paused, I would start isolating. I'd stop doing, the people that were on my list, and I'd drink again. I wanted to get done with that list.
Mine's been like since I've been sober, more shit I'm starting to remember pops up.
And that's common. That's the way it's supposed to happen. Yep.
From the first time to the time I just didn't know.
Because you're going through all that emotion. More people, your past. We've only started tapping into the past. And as we keep writing about it, more's going to be revealed. And that's okay. As soon as something hits you that you didn't write down, write it down. And then talk to your close mouth friend about it. Okay. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter. Now this is for people that have passed away. I know people that write letters, and if they know where they're buried, they go to the cemetery and they'll read that letter right, if they passed away. I know people that have said that and burn the letters. People that have passed on, you take your time with that person and God. You can still make an amends for people that have passed away. Write a letter. Write it out. It's saying, it's saying to write a letter. And there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases. Here's the direction for postponement. But we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. Scraping is wanting to argue. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone. So that's an important one. So you may make an amends, and you may be dealing with a person that is mad, and whatever you say, they're not going to forgive you. We don't beg. We don't crawl before anyone. We make an amends for our part. If they don't accept it, that's on them. We took care of our part. So we're not going to keep because they don't forgive me, I'm not going to keep bringing up the issue over and over again, begging for their forgiveness. That's not going to do anything but make things worse. They're at where they're at during that time. But again, you're just taking care of your part. We can't beg anybody to forgive us. We can't, and we don't crawl before anyone. All right, 9th step promises. You know what's cool about these? That a lot of people don't point out. We read page 52, right? Let's go to 52. Remember the bedevilments? I said if you're ever having an off day and you can't identify it, always turn to this page. And usually this page will identify everything you're going through and more. So the bedevilments, second full paragraph. Having trouble with personal relationships, couldn't control our emotional natures, prey to misery and depression, couldn't make a living, feeling of uselessness, full of fear. We were unhappy, and we couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. So this is before we came to the point of God is, and before we came to the point of turning our will and life over to the care of God, right? Mm-hmm. Now let's read the 9th step promises and see what page 52 has hopefully turned into for some of you.
I think that's what they on this. I think I might got that.
Okay. Write page 52 right next to this. These are the 9th step promises. You'll hear them a lot in meetings, but a lot of people don't compare them to how you were at on page 52. If we are painstaking, that word right off the bat means careful, means diligent. So painstaking about this phase of our development, careful, diligent. So in other words, the steps up to this point. We're on step 9. Page 52, you're not even at a belief in God or turning your will over to the care of God. That's where you're at on page 52. Let's see where we're at on page 83 in the 9th step. We will be amazed before we're halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. Remember when it said we were unhappy? We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. Not opinion, but our experience, our past. That feeling, remember when it said we were useless? Uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Pretty powerful, huh? Everything they said on 52 turned into a positive. If we are painstaking up to this point. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. Here's a promise that's not always pointed out. They will always materialize if we work for them.
When we work for them.
When we work
It
for
should say
them.
when we work for them. If gives the possibility of not doing it.
I like when too. Because faith without works is dead. Have any of these promises come true for any of you? And it's okay if some haven't, but it's pretty amazing how all these, at some time have come true. So, a lot of people think those are the only promises in the book. Are those the only promises in the book? Well, there's just a few. Label them, they're the 9th step promises. So when you hear them in meetings, because those are the ones you hear in meetings, they're the 9th step promises. But there's like I said, over 220 promises in this book. Every step has promises. These are just the 9th step. All right, this is one of the most powerful steps that, they're all powerful, but I mean, my sponsor really emphasized how important this is, and I realized today, without this step, Alcoholics Anonymous wouldn't have succeeded. They would have died. They would have died without this step. So I have the whole first paragraph. This is the directions for step 10, and the rest of it is all promises. So this whole paragraph, I mean, it's crucial. From here on out, it is crucial. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests, every time you see the word continue, circle it. We continue to take personal inventory. Okay, so that means what? Step 4 doesn't stop, right? Continue to take personal inventory. I thought when we were done with step 4, that's it. I've graduated. And continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. So they're not just saying these new mistakes might happen. They're going to happen. So step 9 that we just completed, is it completed? It's up to this point, it's completed to the best of our ability, but we're going to always use step 9. Yep. Because we're going to cause harm. We still have sins. We still have defects of character. We still have shortcomings. And they're going to hit us depending on how spiritually fit we are that day. That's what it comes down to. How spiritually fit am I today? You're going to know by how many harms that you cause other people. You're going to know how spiritually fit you are.
I was just talking to my friend at work, like, I feel ornery today.
And sometimes it starts just like that. It'll start with anger or fear or both or selfishness or isolation. And if you don't do anything about it, you can start feeling it build. And when it builds up, more resentments come, more fears come, whatever it may be. And it'll get to the point of compulsion. You don't have to drink, you don't have to use, but you're going to harm somebody. You're going to yell at somebody. Hopefully, before you get to that place of compulsion, you talk to somebody about it. Always pray. Always, God should be in your life every single day. but set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living. So this way of living, we've done steps 1 through 9. They're showing us a way of living and how to, take care of these defects when they pop up. And then what does it say? This is key. Most people don't even see this. As we cleaned up the past. Do I got to wait for all my amends to be done before I start getting into step 10? It's telling me to get into this step immediately as I'm cleaning up the past. Because like you just said, as you're doing this, more is coming. A new resentment may pop up and you're not even done with, the ones you already had written down. But with this step, you can deal with them. This step gives us a way out every single day. That's why without this step, the Oxford groups didn't have it. They didn't succeed. If we wouldn't know what to do with our new problems, we wouldn't survive. So this shows us how to deal with them. We have entered the world of the Spirit. That is a promise. Spiritually fit, spiritually fit, spiritually fit. Where am I at with God today? Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. We have to grow. We can't be complacent. And we're not going to get to step 11 today, but step 11 is seeking God. And if you don't know who God is, it's finding out, it's continuously growing and seeking. Like I said, you'll see people in AA 30 years sober that are miserable. They don't apply step 10 and 11, and they're not drinking. And they are miserable. There's a lot of them. We have to continually want to grow and want to seek. And then it says, that's how we get effective. This is not an overnight matter. Very important sentence here. It should continue for our lifetime. We got to do this the rest of our life. But what's really our lifetime?
Today.
Circle that word lifetime and put today right next to it. If we think about doing this the rest of our lives, oh my gosh.
Freaking anxiety.
Yes. Can I do it today? I can do it today. And that's how you have to have that mindset. That's how these alcoholics survived, was in that one day at a time mindset. I may have all kinds of confusion and fear and resentment, whatever, but they give me a way out, and I don't have to think about, what I'm going to do tomorrow or next week. Can I take care of what I'm going through today? I can do that. So lifetime today. Here's another continue. How many is that now? 4? Mm-hmm. We've only read a couple sentences in step 10. It's continue, continue, continue. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. I thought those were supposed to go away when I was done with step 4. So it's telling me to watch for them because they're going to come. When these crop up, here's directions. We ask God at once to remove them. Yes, we did steps 2 and 3 with God, but 10 and 11 is seeking God and bringing that relationship into your life. It's not about just a belief. I believed for 30 years and couldn't stop drinking. These steps are going to bring a true relationship with God. And the only way you find God is seeking Him. Growing and understanding in effectiveness. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. What steps do you see in just those couple sentences that I just read?
4 and 5.
4, 5. It says we ask God to remove them. 6, 7. 8 means we already have the list. So what is step 10? It's a rolling 4 through 9.
Maintenance, right?
This is the start of the maintenance steps. The maintenance steps they call 10 through 12, and it's how I live daily. But when you think of step 10, think of it's a rolling 4 through 9. If I've harmed somebody, if I get to that point where I harm somebody, I got to do some writing about it. I got to talk to somebody about it. I got to talk to God about it, and I got to make an amends.
And this is exactly why we shouldn't have to do a fourth step every year or every couple years.
No, that's
If we're
right.
doing this, we
That's
shouldn't
right.
have to ever do it
Yeah,
again.
you'll hear people doing that all the time too. Doing another set of steps, or I'm doing another, if you do this daily, you don't have to think that you can do, a set of steps once a year or once every 5 years. I never got that either. They're telling me how to live maintenance steps every day.
And if you're doing them once a year and you've got pages on your fourth step, there's something wrong.
That's right.
There's something
She's
wrong.
right. Yep. And you hear it in meetings all the time. All the time. I'm going to do another set of steps next year. So what? It's telling me to do this daily. Because if I do it the once a year thing, how much stuff is building up through that entire year? I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I get several resentments daily to this day. But when they crop up, I go to these directions.
Do you talk to your club friend about the resentment every day? Or?
If when I ask God to remove him, when I'm in prayer, most of the time it's removed. Or I start to help someone else. If it lingers and stays there, I have to talk to somebody about it. Yeah. If it's getting worse, I have to talk to somebody about it. But I bring in God, God immediately. I'm in a relationship with God. So I'm talking to him every day, all day. But yeah, I'm glad you said that, because you hear it all the times in meeting. I hate that set of steps. I hate it because that's not what the book describes. The book shows us how to live daily, and when they crop up that day, we know how to deal with it that day. I don't storm away because I'm doing a set of steps. So yeah.
Yeah, I can hold on to this because I know sometime next year I'm going to do another set of steps. So I'll just hold on to it, carry it around with me, and drag myself down.
It's the steps are like it says. It's a design for living. Technically you're using them all in one day. I wake up, I'm in 1, 2, and 3. And then I live in 10, 11, and 12. If I get to the point where resentment's killing me, or fear, or I actually harm somebody, then I have to do 4 through 9. So wake up, my eyes are open. I know I'm an alcoholic. I better know I still have that allergy. I better know I'm still an alcoholic. That's the first thing when I awaken. I better know what alcoholism is. And then I bring God in, because he's removed that obsession. And I pray to him, and I have my time with God in steps 2 and 3. Right off the bat in the morning. I've been doing that for 15 years. And then you live in 10, 11, and 12. And it'll make more sense when we bring in step 11 next week, and especially step 12. But step 12 we were reading about in the forewords. Step 12 is throughout this entire book. When all else fails, work with another alcoholic will save the day. But we'll get more into that in that chapter. But yeah. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. What step is that? 12. You can see all the steps in step 10. You can see them all in this paragraph. Altruism. We resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Here it is. Love and tolerance of others is our code. We have to have that code daily. Love and tolerance. It can be hard to do. In meetings, outside of meetings.
I think a lot of people take that tolerance to an extreme. When we accept people where they're at with tolerance, it doesn't mean that we have to let down boundaries or anything else and allow them to affect us.
That's right.
And so you see that a lot in rooms where people are being hurt and affected by somebody's negative behavior because of this love and tolerance. And no, you accept that person for right where they're at, but then you put that boundary and say, I'm sorry, that's your stuff, not mine.
Yep. There's lines that shouldn't be crossed, for sure. Yep. Okay, so those are the directions for step 10. There's a lot in that paragraph. The rest of these, when we do this paragraph, when we do the directions in this paragraph, the rest of this step is all promises. This is what happens when I actually do this stuff. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. Anybody there today? I am. For this time, sanity will have returned. That's a promise. We will seldom be interested in liquor. That's a promise. If tempted, we recoil from it as a hot flame. And if we've gone this far, we got to be sane. You know, if you're, I used to, I don't know, a pastor told me this. If you're questioning whether or not you're insane, you're probably sane. Insane people don't question if they're insane or not. So, the fact that we have to question that, we're having a pretty good day. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see, when the obsession was removed, I mean, most of the time people notice it before you do, but I remember it's like 17 years I was thinking about drinking every single day, planning for it. Even when I wasn't drinking, the thought was there. And then all of a sudden, doing these steps, I remember, I don't want to drink today. I'm not even thinking about drinking today. It was really weird, but that's one of the biggest miracles that happens. You don't plan for it, you want it, and if you're still thinking about drinking today, it's okay. I just continued moving forward with the steps, having hope that it would work because I heard it in others, and that obsession was removed. So, it's a miracle that happens to a lot of us. We will see our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. I have this highlighted. Instead, the problem has been removed. Promise. It does not exist for us. Promise. We are neither cocky nor are we afraid. For those that are still struggling today, know that this has happened to thousands of alcoholics. That problem, that obsession is removed.
And if you see those people with 30 plus years who still have this obsession, it's because they haven't done it.
That's right. That's right. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. There it is again, and write page 14 next to that again. What happens when we're not in fit spiritual condition? Like I said, this is the page to go back to every single time. The bottom of page 14 says, if an alcoholic failed to perfect and enlarge his spiritual life, we're going to talk about enlarging our spiritual life next week in step 11, through work and self-sacrifice for others. The work, 12 steps, self-sacrificing for others. He could not survive the certain trials and low spots ahead. If he did not work, he would surely drink again, and if he drank, he would surely die. Then faith would be dead indeed. With us, it is just like that. So again, I've said it several times here, there's no gray area. They're not trying to scare us. If we are not in fit spiritual condition, if we stop helping others, if we stop doing the work, we are going to drink again. And to drink is to die. So the key is that fit spiritual condition every single day. It is easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. It is for all of us. And to rest on our laurels. What are laurels? You hear it all the time in meetings.
What is it?
Past achievements.
I said more.
Laurels. Laurels. Past achievements. What are my past achievements up to this point? I'm sober. I'm on step 10. I've done all this writing. I've made all these amends. I'm good. Right? It's a past achievement. If I rest on those and all of a sudden stop, guess what all comes back like a flood? Mm-hmm. Resentment, fear, depression, isolation, all comes back. We are headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. Subtle is this. Those two words literally mean sneaky enemy. Subtle foe, sneaky, cunning enemy. I don't know about you guys yet, but I know who the real enemy is. Bible talks about the enemy, and he is a subtle foe, and he is the author of confusion. This is very important. We are not cured of alcoholism. People like to get this word confused with recovered. Am I recovered? I am. I'm recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, as it tells me 13 times in this book. I don't want to drink today, and I haven't put alcohol in my system. Hopeless state of mind and body. Am I cured? No. Because what happens if I put alcohol in my system? The allergy is still there. I will never be cured. Yeah. Never be cured. And only you can know if you can be cured or not. You have to know, hopefully, through 43 pages of step 1 and the forewords of the doctor's opinion in the preface, what that allergy is. Can you have a drink and stop? I can't. I've tried for 17 years. I have that allergy. I'm not cured. I can stop for 50 years. If I take a drink, I'm going to have multiple until I pass out afterwards. I'm grateful to know that today. It took a long time, and most people don't get to that point of knowing that. They die from that allergy. Everybody in this room hopefully knows that today. We're not cured. But what do we have? The next sentence. We have a daily reprieve. Reprieve. Temporary relief. Temporary relief. Temporary relief is reprieve. A daily reprieve. Contingent on the maintenance, this is why they call these the maintenance steps, of our spiritual condition. What does my spiritual condition have to be today? Fit. And when I'm not fit, bottom of page 14. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into some? All. Every time I see all, I circle it, have it highlighted. God's will into all my activities. And if I don't know who God is, I need to keep seeking. I can't stop with just I believe in something out there and it got me sober and I'm going to stay like that for the rest of my recovery. Don't do that. I pray you don't do that.
Say that one more time.
I don't know what I said.
Watch the video.
Watch the video. You got to go back and watch the video.
I just can't do it then.
Seek God. Seek Him every single day. Don't be stuck and not know who He is and not seek Him. And we'll talk more about that next week because we're going to get into step 11 next week. But it's saying God's will into all my activities. How can I best serve Thee? Here's one of the greatest prayers in the book. I say it all the time, every day. Thy will, not mine, be done. Thy will, not mine, be done. Shortest prayer in the book, and it's one of the most powerful prayers in the book. I can't, He can. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. I have the rest of this highlighted. If we have carefully, I love this, followed suggestions, I see directions. This is a suggestive program. It's saying following directions right there. I do too. But I circled it, I highlighted it. If we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. When you seek God and find out who He is, the Holy Spirit enters you and you become God conscious. All of a sudden, He's leading you. I'm not leading me anymore. I swear I'm not leading anymore. And before I had a belief, I was leading. I believed in him, but I was still leading, and my show ran horribly every single day. Now he leads. I have a true relationship with him because I sought him. I really found out the truth, and that the Holy Spirit leads. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means...
More action.
Are they telling us to stop at step 10? No. You see what these steps do every time one ends? More action, more
If
action,
you
more
want, but
action.
good luck.
And when you get to step 12, you see how they all come together on how we live daily. All right, I'm going to stop the video so that ends step 10, and then we're going to continue on with probably just step 11 next week, because step 12 is has a chapter entirely devoted to step 12. But next week will be step 11.